Take a listen to what Jose Mourinho had to say over the weekend about this Real Madrid side. He said they are wounded. He said they are wounded, and a wounded king is dangerous.
This wasn't just an important game, it was the litmus test for Álvaro Arbeloa's new Madrid. And the terrifying reality for the rest of Europe isn't that Madrid won, it's that for 90 minutes they completely controlled the chaos. To understand how dominant this performance was, you have to look at the most shocking stat of the night. At home, in a Champions League knockout game, Benfica generated just 0.41 expected goals, XG. That is absurd. For context, Benfica usually averages over 1.8 XG at the Luz. Madrid didn't just beat them, they placed them in a straitjacket. The foundation of this performance was the defensive shape out of possession. Arbeloa set them up in a compact 4-4-2 mid-block that simply refused to be stretched. Usually, Madrid's problem has been the space between the lines. The midfield gets caught high, the defense drops deep, and teams run through the middle. Not tonight. The distance between the front two and the back four was compressed to about 25 meters. Benfica tried to play through the center, but there was no air to breathe. Antonio Rudiger was the anchor of this new solidity. He provided the nasty, physical edge that Madrid has desperately missed this season. Every time Benfica tried to go long to bypass the press, Rudiger was there. He won with his aerial duels, he cleared the lines, and he physically bullied Vangelis Panlivdis out of the game. There was a moment in the first half where Pavlidis tried to hold up play, and Rudiger just went straight through him. Legally, but aggressively. It set the tone.
Today, Antonio Rudiger had a very dominant defensive performance. Not only did he have critical tackles in really important, decisive moments in the game, but his ball distribution out of the back just showed that he was an experienced center back. The return of Antonio Rudiger has really aided this Real Madrid defense.
Perhaps the most significant improvement was on set pieces. For 2 years, corners have been Real Madrid's Achilles heel. Every high ball into the box felt like a coin toss.
This is something that has been shadowing Real Madrid over the last 2 seasons, is their poor defending from set pieces, especially from corner kick.
Against Benfica, who are excellent at set pieces, Madrid cleared every single corner. First contact, second contact, it didn't matter. The organization was precise, the marking was tight, and the panic was gone.
Another notable thing I have to talk about in this video is the fact that Real Madrid defended corner kicks really well in this match. Despite the fact that Benfica had multiple corners, Real Madrid was able to clear them every single time.
The defensive discipline had a massive psychological impact on Benfica's attackers. You could see it in their body language. Andreas Schjelderup, usually so dangerous cutting inside, looked isolated. He'd get the ball, look up, see 2 blue shirts, immediately closing the space, and have to recycle it backward. By the 16th minute, Benfica looked out of ideas. They were nullified. This solidity gave Madrid the platform to be patient. They didn't need to engage in a frantic end-to-end game because they knew Benfica couldn't hurt them. If the defense was the foundation, Arda Güler was the architectural masterpiece. This was the most complex tactical adjustment Arbeloa made, and it completely confused Benfica's marking scheme. On the team sheet, Arda looked like a right winger. In reality, he was playing 2 different positions simultaneously.
We saw Arda Güler, especially early in the game, hug the touchline, play on the right wing, but as the game progressed, Real Madrid had more and more possession of the ball, and we saw him drift on the inside, playing that playmaker role.
Let's break down the out-of-possession shape first. When Benfica had the ball, Arda didn't stay wide. He dropped deep, really deep, forming a double pivot alongside Aurelien Tchouaméni
Formation. But what was interesting is Eduardo Camavinga would play in the left midfield, Federico Valverde would play on the right, Arda Güler and Tchouaméni would form the double pivot.
This created a box midfield that clogged the central channels. Benfica's number 10s, who usually find pockets of space behind the midfield lines, suddenly found themselves surrounded. Arda's work rate here was incredible. He wasn't just a passenger defensively, he was tracking runners and cutting off passing lanes, usually occupied by a defensive midfielder. But the moment Madrid won the ball, their shape shifted instantly. As Madrid transitioned to attack, Arda drifted wide to the right touchline. This movement stretched the pitch horizontally. At the same time, Eduardo Camavinga, who had been operating wider defensively, would rotate into the base of the midfield. This rotation was fluid and deadly. Benfica didn't know how to handle it. Their left back was constantly caught in a dilemma. Do I follow Arda inside when he drops deep? If I do, I leave the flank wide open for a switch to Valverde or Trent. If I stay back, Arda overloads the midfield 4 against 3. This hesitation is exactly what Arbeloa wanted. The past maps back this up. Arda's influence wasn't just in the final third, he had significant touches in zones, usually occupied by a number 6. This connects to the broader philosophy Arbeloa is instilling. Players aren't fixed to positions on a board, they're fixed to roles based on where the ball is. It's a level of tactical sophistication we haven't seen from Madrid in a long time. It allowed them to have defensive security without sacrificing attacking width. Arda wasn't just playing a position, he was solving a problem. And, for a player often criticized for his defensive contribution, performing this hybrid role in a Champions League knockout game shows just how much trust the manager has in him. It turned what could have been a predictive 4-3-3 into a fluid, unreadable system that Benfica never figured out. Now, tactical solidity is one thing, but you can't win if you can't get out of your own half. This is where Arbeloa showed his work. Just days prior against Real Sociedad, we saw the blueprint, but against Benfica, it was perfected. The mechanism was specific, repetitive, and devastatingly effective. Up, back, and through. Here is exactly how it worked. Madrid would bait the press. They invited Benfica's forwards to sprint at them, daring them to commit. A centre-back, usually Dean Housen, would fire a vertical pass up to a dropping midfielder, often Camavinga or Tchouaméni, who had his back to goal. Instead of turning into trouble, that midfielder would immediately bounce the ball back to a supporting defender. This simple 1-2 pulled Benfica's midfield line forward just enough to open a gap behind them. That's when the through ball was launched into the vacated space. Dean Housen was the absolute maestro of this operation. The youth centre-back had 99 touches in this match.
This was also in part because Dean Housen had 99 touches on the ball today, the most of any player. He was pretty clean on the ball.
That is an insane number for a defender in a hostile away game. He wasn't just recycling possession, he was finding angles that didn't seem to exist, bypassing Benfica's first line of pressure with surgical precision. He became the quarterback of the defense, dictating the tempo and refusing to be rattled by the noise. Then you had Álvaro Carreras, nominally the left back. Carreras rarely stayed wide. He drifted inside, acting as an extra midfielder to overload the central zones. This movement was a calculated trap. By clogging the left side with bodies, Carreras, Vinicius, and Camavinga, Madrid forced Benfica to shift their entire defensive block over to compensate. They suffocated the pitch on one side, only to switch play instantly to the right. This was the key. They baited the press on the left, specifically to isolate Trent Alexander-Arnold or Valverde on the right switch. It was a game of patience and bait. When Benfica committed too many bodies forward, trying to force a turnover, Madrid had the ultimate pressure valve. Thibaut Courtois, the goalkeeper, used his feet to bypass the first line of pressure, effectively acting as an 11th outfield player. It demoralized Benfica. They would sprint 40 yards to press, only for Madrid to pop the ball around them and leave 6 Benfica players stranded upfield, breathless and beaten. This wasn't the frantic, desperate Madrid of old. This was a machine dismantling a press piece by piece, turning Benfica's aggression into their own undoing. But possession without penetration is just passing practice. Madrid needed a moment to kill the game, and in the 50th minute, the trap snapped shut. This was the sting. It started exactly where the tactical plan dictated, a transition. Federico Valverde, relentless as ever, won the ball back in his own half. He didn't just win the ball, he launched the counter with a single touch. Suddenly, the structure dissolved into pure speed. Kylian Mbappe picked up the ball and drove through the heart of the defense. Now, we have to be honest, Mbappe looked rusty. He lacked that trademark sharpness, likely due to just returning from injury.
When you have Kylian Mbappe not at his best, would you not rather save him, given that Real Madrid is likely going to have future matches in the Champions League, which are going to be more critical, especially in a game where you're already up 1-0?
But here's the terrifying part. Even a rusty Mbappe has gravity. His run through the middle pulled 2 defenders with him, terrified of his pace. He didn't need to score, he just needed to exist. That gravity opened the space on the left for Vinicius Jr. The release pass was simple, but the finish was inevitable. Vinicius cut inside, used the defender as a screen, and curled a shot that silenced the Estádio da Luz before it even hit the net. It was the moment of truth.
today you saw a Vinicius who was a nightmare for the opposition every single time. Not just the goal, but also the performance against Real Sociedad, earning 2 penalties. He's a handful for any right back in the world.
Contrast this with Trent Alexander-Arnold's performance. He had a quieter offensive game than usual, but his tactical discipline was perfect.
He didn't get many touches on the ball today as much as he did against Sociedad, but you saw even a few moments in the game where Alexander-Arnold was able to play those long balls which were decisive when Benfica were pressuring us high up the pitch. So you can see even in games like this where he's not getting many touches on the ball, the few touches he does get can be very decisive, and that's why he could be a critical player to this Real Madrid.
He didn't force the issue, he stayed connected to the system, and that's what makes this team so scary now. They can be dominated for spells, they can play patiently for 50 minutes, and then, in 3 seconds of brilliance, they kill you. The goal wasn't just a moment of magic, it was the inevitable consequence of a system designed to exploit the exact space Benfica left behind. This victory signals a massive evolution. We're no longer watching a team that relies solely on individual brilliance to bail them out of chaos. We're watching a team where structural discipline enhances the brilliance. If they can defend like this while their superstars are still finding fitness, the proposition for the rest of Europe is horrifying. Arbeloa hasn't just steadied the ship, he's built a warship. Subscribe for the full tactical breakdown of the second leg.